I gotta wait. How long I gotta wait for it to press record?
Go.
Welcome to the shed, where Miss Dreme always has a story.
I'm Dreme, a black woman with many beautiful interconnecting identities. A few I will name at this moment as we get started on this podcast journey together. A Bostonian, born and raised in the inner city, Dorchester and Roxbury neighborhoods, to a teenage single mother who has my whole heart. An educator, I've been working with youth and children since my teenage years, and formally, I have been teaching almost a decade now. That's wild to think about. An entrepreneur, I am the founder of The Chair, a black and brown centered tech platform dedicated to supporting people on their hair journey, where you can design hairboards, connect to hairstylists, and share hair care tips for a more joyous experience. I have a workable site, my prototype. It took me 2 years to build, and now I'm on this adventure that you're currently on with me. My goal for this podcast is to share stories, black stories, educator stories, entrepreneurship stories, and hair stories. I want you to leave each episode with the opportunity to gain new insight, just a glimpse into my world or the worlds that are featured on my podcasts, a little chuckle during your day or night, possibly a little anger to encourage you to advocate for justice, and hope to continue learning and dreaming. So come in and listen to the beautiful voices in the chair as they share their stories, starting with me.
Where we share stories in the chair.
Hello, beautiful people. This is Kelly. Kelly, can you please introduce yourself?
Hey, everybody. I'm Kelly Corrigan. I am a friend and a fan of Dreams. I write books, mostly about different seasons of family life. I have a television show on PBS called Tell Me More, where Dreme was a guest. And I have a podcast called Kelly Corrigan Wonders that we've been doing for about 4 years now. We have hundreds of episodes.
Yes.
And we look at things in little series. So we did a series on what is well-being and how do you get it? And if you ever are able to get it, how do you keep it? We've done series on the worst advice we've ever gotten, like the kind of conventional wisdom that should be roundly questioned. We've done series on rupture and repair, meaning stories where people almost broke up or went to war and then pulled back from the edge and trying to surface the principles and practices that make repair possible. We've done series on a book you were assigned in high school that had super powerful impact on your thinking, et cetera, et cetera. So that's probably where I spend the majority of my time is podcasting, because we release 3 episodes every week. So that takes a considerable amount of mind share. And then I'm a mom. I have 2 kids, 21-year-old girl who's about to be a senior in college at UVA, and then a kid who is not quite 23, who just finished her first year of work in New York City as a banker. And I live half the year in Manhattan and half the year in Bozeman, Montana. This year, I went to Africa for the first time. I went to Tanzania for 3 weeks. And I did have this feeling that I wish more people could come here and see this, because this is what it looks like when Black people are in charge of society. And everybody who spoke to us was in leadership positions. And there was this panel of, we were there to learn about Every Mother Counts, which is a maternal mortality organization that's trying to reduce maternal death. It's 14 years old. It was started by Christy Turlington, the model, and they've given $42 million away to different nonprofits around the world. And so, we'd have a panel of OBGYNs talking to us both about like the procedures that the way they've adjusted public health procedures such that fewer women die in childbirth. And then also what they're doing at a legislative level to try to help change policies such that women are protected in the critical postpartum months where actually most maternal death happens. And everybody on this panel is like a total expert. And then the next day, you go to this hospital where they had this beautiful rural hospital that they built from nothing. And they're giving like world-class care. And they're doing it so strategically. Like they are making every dollar stretch in a way that no company in America does this anymore. We're just fat and happy that these guys are like really squeezing the most out of every ounce of revenue they've got. And everybody who was teaching us was Black, and all the people who were learning were white. I loved that experience. And it struck me as like, this would really be so valuable for everybody to immerse themselves in a society that's completely run beautifully by people of a different race, or all women, or all folks. Or we're so used to white men who are straight running everything that there's always this exception when someone who doesn't fit that description is in charge of the meeting. It's so rare. And then to be in a place where all the meetings are run by somebody who does not fit that description, which is kind of a thrill because it just laid bare the lie of it all.
So I have a couple of thoughts. I get nervous when I hear white people talk about Black people with the words fascinated, exciting, or thrill when it comes to people of color, because it makes it seem that we don't exist without the validation of white people. I wonder, when it comes to understanding whiteness, after like your first impressions in your high schools and your experiences, when did you feel like you started having conversations? And I don't like the phrase hard conversations because I don't believe talking about race is hard. I think people who are uncomfortable call it hard. When do you feel like you started having conversations about race more regularly to be able to just say, we are all people? Because on your website, it says that people are struggling. We just need to be helpful. So what did that look like for you?
Well, when I graduated from college, I went to work for the United Way. And I worked there for a long time. And so my job was basically to take people from corporate America into the rougher parts of town. So like in San Francisco, we took people to the Tenderloin, which is just a part of San Francisco that is completely falling apart for people of all races. It's not as much a racial component as you might have seen in some East Coast cities, I guess. But it's just a rough, depressing part of beautiful San Francisco. And I really relished the opportunity to see a broader swath of humanity day in and day out. And I had a lot of friends who were in consulting at the time. And I just knew that they were in their clean little office all day long, making PowerPoint slides and wearing nice clothes and eating good sandwiches for lunch that were brought in by some underappreciated secretary. And I really loved snapping people out of their bubbles and saying, look, this is true too. This is San Francisco also. This is the day in the life of X, Y, and Z. And it wasn't so much a racial idea in my head. It was more economic. It was just like, if you have a job at Citibank, you have so much money and you have health insurance and you go to a clean place every single day. And then like 2 blocks away, there are these people and they've never had a job and they have no education and they have one pair of pants and not that many people know who they are or care who they are. And they're eating slop 3 meals a day, and every race is represented in every shelter. And then, I really looked at women. I mean, I think for me, it was more thinking about women and mothers. Like there's just so many women who have children that they're scurrying from shelter to shelter, like living out of a car. And then you just start to think about the kids. And that took me to Children's Hospital Oakland, which is where I did the majority of my volunteering when I was in the Bay Area. I lived in the Bay Area for 29 years and I worked with children's for 12. And children's really struck me as like the last mixed space that I was ever in regularly, which is to say employed people and people on food stamps, moms who were 16 and moms who were 38. All races were represented, all levels of health. Like when my daughter had meningitis as a baby. And so when I was in the hospital with Claire, it was a round the clock thing because meningitis can be fatal until you know whether it's bacterial or viral. And if it's viral, it's just really weird cold. And if it's bacterial, they could be blind, they could die. And so you're in the hospital in the dark of night with these other moms. And there's this sporty mom in her Lululemon, and there's a mom who's a Russian immigrant who does not speak English, who is so alone. She's never been so alone in her life. And nobody there knows how to talk to her. And she's just staring at her child. And there's the mom from Mexico, and there's the Black moms, and there's the mom and the dad, and there's the mom who has no partner of any kind. And there's something about like 4 a.m. at a children's hospital, like in the NICU, that really clarifies something that I felt lucky to know. Like when I left there, I thought I had grown up a lot in those 72 hours. I mean, in one way, I was just like, I'm leaving. And I just know there are other moms there that are not going to leave. They're going to be there for months. And I know there are other moms there who are going to leave without their child. And then to go home to a house that has heating and air conditioning and a husband and food in the fridge and no mold. And I wasn't living with, my parents didn't live in the basement. I wasn't trying to carry my aunts and uncles. There was no crowding in my house. Everybody had a bedroom. I mean, it just so, all of a sudden, it was all so clear to me. And that's not all racial. It was really more economic and just general support. How hard is your life? And it was just clear to me that, like, if you have income, if you have health insurance, if you have a nice spouse, like, that's just so much support. Like, you can just handle so much more. It's just an easier day.
Where we share stories in the chair.
Look, it's my commercial. We will be right back.
It's more than just a bad hair day. It's a journey. Finding the right hairstyle isn't easy, nor is finding the right stylist or the right products. Looking in every corner of the web gets messy, overwhelming, and exhausting. All the ads, the articles, the products, the videos, it shouldn't be this hard, but it is. And now, it isn't. The Chair. A black and brown centered platform where you can design hairboards, connect to hairstylists, and share hair care tips for a new, joyful path on your hair journey. Avoid the clutter, save yourself hours, months, and even years of research and poor trial and error. Everything you need and only what you need is in one place. Hairboards made by people like you, for you. Find the right products, the right people, the right answers for you, stress-free. Join the Chair community and make every day a great hair day. When you share your pain, you allow others to help you. And when you share your success, you help others get theirs. Lean on the Chair. We got you. No stress, no strife. In the chair. The chair. The chair. All right.
Oh, and if you're interested to learn more about my experiences as a Black woman and educator in Guangzhou, China, I wrote my first ebook titled Nowhere and Everywhere, Captured Emotions of a Beautifully Broken Love Story. It is on lulu.com. Take a read and see some beautiful photography of mine. Enjoy the rest of the show.
The chair.
My mom tells this story all the time. I think about it constantly. So my mom was a teen mom. So when she had me, she was 18, 19, and she was in the hospital. And it separated her with like a curtain. On the other side was a white woman, also 18, 19, also just had a baby. And both babies, I was taken away, her baby was taken away, we're just being taken care of, things like that. And a white nurse comes in to my mother's side of the curtain and says, hey, if you want to give up your baby now, we can take her for you and it won't be that bad. Here's some paperwork, things like that. I don't think you're going to be able to take care of your kid. Just not great. And my mother says, like, no, thank you.
Oh my
yells,
God.
kicks her out. And then the white other mother pulls back her curtain and says, hey, she did not do that to me. And it's something I think about often when it comes to gender economics, how there's still this level of lack of racial conversation. When I think about my gender, how race can't be in the same sentence, or if it is in the sentence, then we can only talk about them one at a time. As a Black woman, I identify as straight, cis, heteronormative, cisgender, like all the things. And so there's this conversation that happens when me as a Black woman walks into a space. I'm also a darker skinned Black woman, and my sister is very light. And so there was always a conversation that I must be meaner or more aggressive because of my darker tone. When I think about lessons in my life where I've thought about who I was, who I am, and the things that I want to do to be better for people, I cannot take away my racial element because it's the first thing people see. And then they'll say woman after they say Black.
You know, I went to Spelman to do a podcast, and we went to a class and recorded with one of the professors, and we recorded with some of the students, and then we went to the co-op or whatever, where they, use their meal card to get snacks and stuff. And we were sort of settled into this table at the student union, and there were maybe 4 students next to us at the table, and we overheard them, and they were just so funny and smart and outgoing, and there was really great energy happening between them. And so I, with my recording equipment, turned around and said, hey, we're here recording a podcast and wondering if you would be game to be on it. I'd love to hear about your experiences at Spelman. And they were like, sure. And they were kind of cracking up, sort of like you were, like, what is happening? Okay. So anyway, we set up with them, and we probably talked to them for 45 minutes. We had 15 minutes left, and our show is also played on NPR station, so we have a time limit. But one of the things that came out is that being at Spelman, most of the girls at the table we were talking to had gone to a high school like yours, which was predominantly white private high school, where they were this total standout student, A++s, super high SAT scores, et cetera, et cetera. And they said that at Spelman, because it's all Black and it's all women, that you don't have to think about being a Black woman anymore for 4 years, which freed up all this headspace for them to devote to their studies.
Yep.
Sort of representing all the time.
No. And there's all this research that shows that people who come from HBCUs and they go into workspaces do not have to do so much racial identity development, because confidence in who you are isn't questioned. You are confident in who you are. You are confident in your abilities. And I think growing up, I will always thank my mother for this. And she was like, yep, we're Black. But she was like, you're also need to be the smartest person in the room. And she says, when you're not the smartest person in the room, you need to learn about all the people in the room to become the smartest person in the room. And then you need to move rooms. And so it was always a conversation of, okay, what are we learning today? Did we explore something today? When I think about the first time I started to really think about my Blackness, like I always knew I was Black. Like I grew up in a Black house. My sister's a different shade. My mother's a different shade. My cousins are all different shades of Black. Color was always talked about. But it wasn't until I got to high school where Blackness was attached to all these intense characteristics about negativity. And I was like, whoa, okay, why are we talking about Blackness this way? Why does it feel like I have a stamp Black on my forehead instead of it just being like... Yeah.
Right. Why do you feel like you're going to confound expectations?
Yeah. And so it being like, oh, no, this is just what's happening. But it became a conversation because for me, I will always remember my mother gave me a choice. So I had the choice to go to Buckingham, Brown and Nichols, the private high school that I chose to eventually go to. And I had the opportunity to go to the O'Brien. And the O'Brien is an exam school in Boston, like one of the top performing public schools, mostly people of color. And I had the choice of going between the two. And for me, it had nothing to do with race because at that time, again, I was attending camp. in New Hampshire. So I was like, oh, I know white people. Like, that's fine. But I chose BBN because they had a study abroad program in high school, and the O'Brien did not. And that was my only decider. And then when I went to BBN, I ended up learning that there was a difference between poor whites and rich whites and how they saw me at camp. The conversation when it came to white students was, yeah, we're talking about race, but we understood what it meant to not have as many resources. We understood the conversation of class and economics. That was already a conversation, while some people at my high school never stepped into my neighborhood or any neighborhood considerably like mine. And so it was just, there were so many differences, and they had so many stereotypes or assumptions that sometimes as a kid, you know, you're just trying to be a kid. You're also trying not to be stressed and think about vanity, and also think about how if you're not good at sports and all these other things, and you're like focused on being like, I just really wanted to go to this school because I wanted to study abroad in Rome. I ended up studying away in Maine instead. My mother was so upset. She was like, why did you choose that? But I always think about when it comes to identity, when you start thinking about blackness or you start thinking about whiteness, what are we attaching it to? Well, Kelly, thank you so much for sharing your stories in the chair. I truly appreciate
My pleasure.
I truly
My
appreciate
pleasure.
it.
Yeah, anytime. I'll talk to you whenever you want.
Thank you so much for sharing your stories in the chair. It means the most.
Good luck with it. It's cool. It's really cool. I'm proud of you.
Welcome to the chair, where Miss Dreme always has a story.
Thank you for listening to an episode of The Chair. I, of course, would love your continued support. Let me know what you think of this episode by doing all the things. Subscribe, comment, and come back next week, every week. Enjoy the rest of your beautiful day. Or if you are like me, enjoy that moonlight and that one star under all your city lights. Love you. Talk to you later.
The chair.
How long I gotta wait for a person to record?
Go.
We support her. Shit.
Do your...
Welcome to the chair, where Miss Dreme always has a story. Where we share